All right, hey, welcome to Writing Quest. My name is Brenden Pugh. Today we've got Tony from Star Wars Sith on the channel. How you doing today?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, I'm doing good. Hey, so we only just met, but I like your channel, and I like everything you got going on over there. Why don't you, so I found you by going over to Nerd Theory, which we both frequent pretty regularly, I think. So you were saying before about being on their show or something?
Yeah, so I actually got on one episode. They were bringing on random people that were in the live chat, and I actually got through. So it was when Melvin, the Knights of Melvin dude, was on there with them, and they kept bringing on random people. So I was on there for like a couple minutes, and it was just great to be able to talk with Josh, with Theory. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I like those dudes. I've really enjoyed their stuff, and you know, he gets a lot of hate on stuff, but I don't think it's totally warranted. For sure,
for just having an opinion, like, and he's respectful with his opinion. It's crazy to me the hate that they get.
Yeah. I mean, because you know, it's like you can disagree. That's totally fine, but
yeah,
he's never said anything mean, or he doesn't attack anyone. He just kind of says what he thinks, and yeah. So we'll probably circle back to them. I bet we have some things to talk about. But why don't you tell us a little bit, like how you started your channel and how you got to what you're doing, and then maybe a little bit of how you even got started with Star Wars.
Nice. So I started my channel right before Anaheim Celebration 2022. So the main reason I started my channel was I wanted to cover Celebration, and I wanted to show people like what it is, because there's a lot of Star Wars fans that have no idea what Star Wars Celebration is, or they've never been to one. So that's what started my channel, and then from there I've gotten into everything and anything Star Wars. So covering like reactions to shows, gaming. I've been live streaming a lot of Star Wars games lately, toy hunting, unboxing toys, doing reviews and things like that. So it's a little bit of everything for a Star Wars fan. And what got me into Star Wars, it was my father. Back in the early 90s, we had the trilogy on VHS.
Oh, yeah.
And Yes. And I remember watching that religiously throughout the 90s, over and over and over, until it hit 1999, and I got to see Phantom Menace in theaters. And since then, I've seen everything in theaters, and it just never stopped. It never stopped.
Yeah, for sure. I'm guessing we're probably similar age, because I have basically the same story. I have a pretty specific... I don't actually ever remember when I first watched the originals, because my dad, like, he went to them when he was a kid in theaters. Yeah. So I'm sure he just had them on at some point. But I remember he picked me up from a friend's house or something, and me and some of my brothers, I have a bunch of brothers, and he had the VHS trilogy, like the special edition ones that had just come out or whatever. And we went home, and I just never stopped watching them. And I actually was just telling one of my brothers not too long ago about people in our age group were basically kind of destined to be nerds, because around that 1999 was like the special edition Star Wars, then we got Phantom Menace and all the prequels. We got Lord of the Rings. We got like, all this stuff.
Everything.
Pokemon started.
Yep. Like,
we're basically destined to be nerds. So
yeah, and even then, the internet started to take off too. So we were there for the beginning of that.
Yeah. I remember first time getting AOL in the house, and
the dial-up. Yep. Oh yes.
Yeah. Actually, at work just yesterday, I heard the fax machine go off, and it still kind of sounds like the AOL thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Who's signing into American Online?" Like,
yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So on the Star Wars front, so my channel is mostly about writing, and I'm writing a book and that kind of thing. So where Star Wars plays in is the stories, talking about the stories and so we're going to just jump into it. The hot takes of, the Star Wars fandom is pretty wild right now.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people like it, a lot of people hate it, a lot of people are in the middle, and everyone's very vocal. So kind of where do you sit right now with the state of Star Wars and everything going on?
So it's kind of rough right now, I'm not gonna lie, because there were so many projects that should have been home runs, that should have been alley-oops, and they weren't. And it makes no sense. Like, Kenobi should have been a home run.
Mm-hmm.
Book of
Yeah.
Boba Fett. Yeah.
That one's a Kenobi was one where it's like I think they stuck the landing, but like just barely, you know?
Yeah. That's what saved it to make it decent was that final episode, that final fight.
Yeah. It's like I could basically watch like first episode, last episode, and like
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's all you need. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they had issues with that. Book of Boba, which like they kind of made Boba look weak, and like the best two episodes were like two amazing Mandalorian episodes. It just didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mando season 3 to me was a huge letdown compared to season 1 and season 2. When you figured Mando season 3 should have been a home run too, like it's Mando. You just had Luke, like it was crazy, and it was what it was. And then I know this is a kind of a hot take because either people love it or they don't like it. Andor to me wasn't. I'm not an Andor fan, so I did not enjoy that. And then like it being 12 episodes and the budget they spent on that, it's like why couldn't Kenobi be 12 episodes and have a $250 million budget? But you give it to the dead guy from Rogue One. Just like little things like that kind of like irked me. But like I'm really looking forward to Ahsoka. So that's like our Obi-Wan Kenobi right now. Like, help me, you're my only hope. But it's kind of like after that, it's like, what do we have to look forward to? Because like Marvel's kind of in a similar situation now where everything is just mid. But at least we know what they're getting in the future. They're getting X-Men. They're getting Fantastic Four, Secret Wars. They have a lot of good stuff to look forward to. Deadpool. But for us, like, it's just like what the Dave Filoni movie, and then we don't really know what else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think I'm basically right on par with you for everything. I have some nuanced takes on everything. Like Andor is kind of one of those like it would have been a really good Blade Runner show, maybe.
Yeah,
it didn't really feel very Star Warsy, and then. One of my big complaints that I've had for all of the Star Wars shows and Marvel has been that so like if you're going to have 6 episodes of a show, like it's a limited series, it's not going to continue. If you're going to have 6 episodes of something, like every single episode better be a banger.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
If you have have a network show where you got 22 to 24 episodes a season, like, yeah, you're going to have some slows. Like everyone accepts that, like, that's a lot. But yeah, with 6 episodes, I'm like, why isn't this just like going crazy every episode?
Yeah.
Just wild. The Book of Boba Fett was the most perplexing.
Yeah.
I just like, and what's been weird about all of them is there's a lot of things that are cool and there's a lot of things to like.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the stuff in Book of Boba Fett, but then there's just so many baffling decisions. Like, again, the Mando thing, like why I'm not here to watch Mando. I'm here to watch Boba Fett,
So I'm actually rewatching Boba right now, and I'm starting a video series called Was It That Bad? So I'm watching each episode and I'm taking notes each episode. It's like it's homework. And like so far in my notes, there's so many good things in the Book of Boba, but overall it wasn't good, which blows my mind. Like we got how Boba Fett came back. Max Rebo returned. I love Max Rebo. We got we got a Rancor. I love a Rancor. We got Black Sandin. We had the Hutt twins, which was cool seeing, the Hutt species back on screen. We had the Pikes and the Tuskens and seeing like their culture and all that good stuff. Like that was cool. So there's been like a lot of good things. That one bar that had the 2 people from the deleted scene from A New Hope, like that's a super cool like callback. So there's a lot of good stuff, but just them making Boba just soft when like Boba Fett was the baddest bounty hunter in all the galaxy, and he's hanging around with these little Power Ranger biker gang. It makes no sense, man.
Yeah, for sure. It was they've all, been like, episodes 1 and 2. I'm like, okay, I can go with it.
Yeah.
And then by the end you're kind of like, wait, how did we get here? And like the Power Ranger, the biker gang thing, like,
Oh man.
was super weird. And I don't know. Yeah, well, what's even more interesting is, like, I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have done a great job and
Yep.
are fighting for it. But they also have had some of these projects where it's like, wait, that's a weird choice. But then it's like, we don't know what's the involvement of like the studio, and
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy is obviously a big,
Yep.
we don't know what's going on with her.
Exactly. Like Mando season 3, there's no way John did that whole thing and wanted it to be that way. Like KK had to have been, oh no, we need to throw these famous people in because people love them, or no, I want to do this story. So there's no way that season 3 was 100% John and Dave. No way.
Yeah, it was way too different. Way
Yeah.
too different. Like,
Yep.
and even like, again, it's like that first episode, I'm like, okay, I'm with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah, it got, again, it's, if you're gonna have 6 episodes, which was Mando 6 or 8, I think. I
8.
forget. 8.
Mando was 8. Was 8. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna just have those 8 episodes, one, they all need to be banging, and then because then
Yeah.
it's. I remember watching multiple of those episodes. I really felt this with Andor, but Mando 3 was like this, where you're as I'm watching it, I'm like waiting for something to happen,
Yeah.
and then you have multiple episodes in a row where like nothing really happens, and I'm like, this, like, and then after we had we had Boba Fett, where Mando comes in and he's kind of like becomes the main character for a minute.
Yeah.
But then we get to Mando and he doesn't even seem to be the main character of his show.
It's the Bo-Katan show.
It's
Yeah.
just super, and I think Bo-Katan's great. I think
Me too.
Katie Sackhoff was great in the role too. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so weird. It's baffling decisions.
It really is, and it's crazy to me how they have such an amazing actor in Giancarlo, and they barely had him in season 3. They brought him in towards the end, give him amazing armor, and then kill him. Like, what? Why would you waste that? Like, with Mando, I thought it was going to take the whole season to get to the Mines of Mandalore. They did that in an episode and a half, and after that, I had no idea what the point or what the plan was at all.
Yeah, well, that they set it up in the beginning, and where he's like, the premise of the show is like, oh, he wants to earn back being a Mandalorian. So like, I'm thinking this is what the show will be about, is getting back to Mandalore.
Yeah.
All this stuff. And yeah, then like the next episode is like, oh, he's fine now. Like,
Yeah. Like, what?
Yeah.
And the Mythosaur, too. I thought that was so cool seeing that, and I thought somebody was going to be riding it by the end, and we never saw the Mythosaur again.
Yeah. And even, even if they wanted to hold that off, for like season 4 or 5, or, if they wanted to make it a longer story, that would have been fine, except that they didn't do anything with, like, there was no real, like, they're just not really, that's it. It's just this one little thing.
But I did enjoy, I love a good Order 66 flashback. So
Yeah.
I did enjoy that. I love seeing the gunships. I love seeing the live action clone troopers and hearing Tamora Morrison's voice. That made me happy. And then even seeing Ahmed Best, like, I had no idea who Keller and Beck was. I never watched that kid show, so I didn't know the reference. But the minute I saw him, I was like, Jar Jar, save Grogu. I got excited for no reason. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a cool time. I didn't know who they were going to have do it. And at first, when I saw him show up, I was kind of like, I was disappointed for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I was, you're hoping it's like Mace or so,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But then I was like, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. That's actually a cool way to include him in, especially since he's had kind of a crap run with,
Yep.
being in the fandom and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. I enjoyed it for that reason, to give him like kind of redemption as a person, as an actor, not necessarily as a character. But the cool thing is, though, like, that ship that he left in could have been Jar Jar's ship, and they could have been taking Grogu back to Naboo. So what if we see another flashback later to see like Grogu getting taken? Because the next time we see Grogu is in Mando season 1 with those pirates.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be kind of cool to see what happens after that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, and now that you're talking about the prequels, I'm thinking about Kenobi again. I think the most baffling thing to me about that show was that, like, if you're gonna have um, Hayden Christensen back, like, I would have had every other scene was a flashback, you know?
Oh, I know. What they should have did was, remember how it was like one episode that had a bunch of flashbacks and it was spread out throughout that one episode? They should have started every episode with a flashback like that. Every episode should have started and even ended with a flashback like that. Like, get your money's worth out of Hayden and Hewan. Like, who knows when we'll ever get that again? If we do, which we probably won't. But like, it was just a missed opportunity, man.
Yeah.
Two legends.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely. I thought it was interesting. You know, I didn't mind the Reva character other than the fact that, like, in a show with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, you don't really need any other characters.
Yeah.
Like,
So, not that I hate Reva, I just hate that she was in Kenobi. If you would have took the character Reva out and threw her in Andor, I probably would have liked her a lot more because her story is kind of sick. Like,
Yeah.
she survived Order 66. She became an Inquisitor. She's hunting Jedi down. Like, throw her in Andor. Oh, great, cool. She's awesome.
or even make an Inquisitor show and she's
Yep.
the main character. You know, like,
That'd be fine. There's no expectation because all we wanted was Hayden and Hewan. And what killed me during that final fight, when you're seeing Vader and Obi-Wan going at it, and it would cut to Reva, I was like, it just took me out of it so quick.
yeah, it should have just been like, just make it about them. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. And then, her whole presence on the Skywalker farm, like, it just starts, it doesn't quite make a plot hole, but it's like,
Almost did. It almost
it's
did.
like right there, because my thought with Luke was that, so, how old is he in that? Like 10, maybe 9 or 10 then?
Yeah, 10, I think it is.
Yeah. So that's like, like we were just saying earlier, is like, that's a pretty formative time in a young person's life.
Yeah, you'll remember that.
Yeah. And like there's no way he gets to be an adult and it's like, oh yeah, there was that red lightsaber lady that one time
Chasing me, through the desert. Like, come on.
Yeah. And even with Leia, it's like, it doesn't quite make a plot hole, but it's still like, when she would have contacted Obi-Wan Kenobi later in the first movie in A New Hope, it would have been a different interact. Like, they're basically friends now.
Yeah. 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 And with Reva, I think what irked me as well is that she survived getting stabbed by Anakin and Vader twice, and Obi-Wan let her live, and she knows who Anakin is. So she's just chilling, knowing this, all this. Like, it makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, it's super weird. Yeah, that was a little disappointing that's like how he found out. I feel like there could have been a better, more like epic way that, I just felt like it was like, if you're going to bring him back, everything should be like super epic.
Yes, yes. Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Well, I do, you said before you're excited about Ahsoka. I am too. I'm one of those, like, I keep saying after every show, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm canceling it. I'm out.
Me too.
And then the next one, I'm like, oh, but I want to know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like the stuff for Ahsoka has looked really great, and I'm excited about it. But I felt that before, so I'm trying to be reserved. Like, where are you sitting with it?
Oh, I have high expectations, and the reason is because with this, it's different than every other project because it's Dave Filoni, and he wrote all 8 episodes, so it's guaranteed a consistent story from Dave's mind. Like, Mando had different writers for different episodes, different directors, and all that stuff. And I think for Ahsoka, there's different directors directing it, but he wrote all 8. And in Dave, we trust. Everything he's dropped, I've loved. I give him a pass for that one Mando episode that he did in season 3 that was his, because he probably was working on Ahsoka, and KK probably messed. That was the one that she probably was like, throw Jack Black and Lizzo and all these other people in there and Doc Brown.
Yeah. Well, and that show was already such a mess at that point. It's like one episode from him isn't going to save it.
Exactly. So with Ahsoka, I'm a huge Rebels fan, so this is just live action season 5 Rebels, and and we're gonna get Hayden in it. Like that's the biggest rumor. There's all these leaks. They keep name dropping Anakin in the trailer, so maybe we'll get Hayden used in the Ahsoka show the way we wanted in the Kenobi show.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I well, and what's so cool about Ahsoka too is like how disliked she was at first.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I remember I went and
yeah.
saw the movie and I was like, this is terrible. Like, what on earth is,
Yep.
And then you get to, the later like season 7, the last season just hits so hard. Like,
Oh, the last 4 episodes is an epic movie.
yeah, yeah, it's just crazy. But, well, I'm excited too. I hope that it, so here's my next question. So let's assume that Ahsoka is the best thing ever. It's better than all the movies. It's the dream we've wanted.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties into a Marvel question. Can it actually save the Star Wars franchise where we're at right now?
So yes and no. No. Well, I would say yes only if they give the keys to the kingdom to Dave. If it does crazy numbers and they're like, oh shoot, like we should give Dave more work or give him more freedom or more projects. But even if they did do that, it would take years for us to see anything from that. It wouldn't be an instant thing. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just tough. After even if Ahsoka's really really good, as soon as as it finishes, I'm so worried about the finale in the sense that I have a feeling the finale will be super good, but then after that, what do we have to look forward to? It's literally going to be the dark times after that because there's nothing coming out that's Ahsoka level, probably until Dave's movie or until Tales of the Jedi next year. But it's going to be a drought, and if they do give Dave more projects, we'll see that. What, 2026, 2027?
Yeah,
it's gonna be the
that's
dark
if
times.
they can get him off the ground. They haven't been able to get a movie done since Rise of Skywalker. So
Exactly. So it's a tough one. Like they have a lot to do, man. They have a lot to do.
yeah, and so Marvel is I've was said in a similar situation. What's interesting, the difference between Marvel and Star Wars for me, anyways, Marvel's got a little bit more grace in that comics have a long history of rebooting themselves. They, this is not as long of a running franchise, so like they can just kind of pivot a little faster. Like to me, Marvel at this moment is just kind of in like a dip.
Yeah.
I think that Kevin Feige, they're pivoting, they're kind of starting to figure things out. Star Wars is rough though because like I just feel like it's less malleable, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but I feel like it's like even if Ahsoka is amazing, we still have to keep all of this like trash in the canon,
Yep, exactly. And with Marvel, they have Kevin Feige. With Star Wars, we have KK. It's a huge difference. But like with Marvel, they built a lot of like respect from the fans because what they did with Endgame and building up a decade to that was amazing, was ridiculous. And so they got a little leeway because we know, okay, they could restart it and then we could get another 5-year stretch that builds up to something crazy, which they've kind of talked about already because we know there's Avengers Kang Dynasty, then Secret Invasion, and then the X-Men movie, all that stuff. So we know that stuff is coming. So like we have that to look forward to. In Star Wars, the 3 movies they announced, I'm not excited about the Rey movie if it still happens. The Filoni movie, I'm super excited for. And then that James Mangold movie, I'm not as excited, and it's probably not going to happen because Indie Bomb. And supposedly that James Mangold movie was gonna connect Rey to it somehow, which feels forced and stupid if it's 25,000 years before everything.
Really, I hadn't heard that. That does seem like a strange. I don't know how you would do that, but
Yeah. There was rumors that it's gonna tie to the Rey movie or tie to Rey specifically, which feels like something KK said. You could make this movie, but make sure it ties back to Rey or whatever or something like that. So it's kind of like, are these 3 movies even going to get made?
Yeah, it's that. So this kind of ties into how the sequels went. I think what made Marvel so successful for so long was because they did have a singular vision of, we're going to do it this way. We're going to make these movies. Kevin Feige really had a pretty strong hand on it. And that was the same for, the first 6 movies with George and with Clone Wars. Like he had a singular vision. And I think, the mistake they made with the sequels wasn't so much that any of the story choices they made, it was they didn't have a plan.
Yep.
So like my position on the sequels has always been that I actually and I will admit this so you can hold me to it. When Last Jedi came out, I really liked it a lot. But then as I watched it, and then as Rise of Skywalker came out, and that's when I started to be like, okay, this didn't really work.
Yeah.
But it's because they just didn't have why would you spend $4 billion on a franchise and then not map out the trilogy?
Yeah.
So the producers go to the directors and say, this is the general outline of the story. This is where we're going to start. This is where it's going to be in the middle. This is where it's got to end. Then figure it out. It's just interesting.
So when the sequels came out, The Force Awakens to me wasn't too bad of a start. I was like, okay, that's decent. It's been a while. Like, we didn't know anything else of newer stuff. We just had that. But then The Last Jedi came out, and I didn't hate it at first. I'm like, it was okay, but I hated a lot of the things that they did in it because, I thought Snoke was cool and awesome. They just cut him in half. And, what they did to Luke, I mean, everyone doesn't appreciate how their portrayal of Luke. And then The Rise of Skywalker came out, and I was like, I guess that's the best we could get because half the movie was trying to fix the last movie. Mm-hmm. But what opened my eyes even more to the sequels was Mando Season 1. After we got Mandalorian Season 1 and I watched that, I was like, this is Star Wars. This is new, but this is this is new but feels old. This is what Star Wars feels like, not what we got in the theater. So it made me not like those even more. And then we got Mando Season 2, which blew me away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, Mando, and a lot of people sleep on Mando Season 2. I'm like, they brought Boba Fett back from the dead. We got Bo-Katan, we got Ahsoka, we got freaking Luke. So that season was crazy. So it's like, you get all that, and it's like, why couldn't the movies be as good as that was?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I maintain that the movies individually alone, if you silo them, they're good movies. If you just look from a narrative perspective, they tell a good story. They tell a cohesive story as themselves.
Yep.
The problem is when you put the three together, they don't make any sort of sense. And because even like Rey being a Palpatine, I wouldn't necessarily have chose that, but it's not a bad thing that they chose it. It's a bad thing that they didn't choose it from the start.
Yes, 100%. If that would have been the plan from the beginning, dope. But right. It wasn't. It was like a Hail Mary. Okay, let's bring Palps back. Because I was at Celebration 2019 in Chicago when they revealed the trailer for that and the name of the movie. And I was in a crowd of 2,000 people when that trailer went live. And everybody went nuts seeing Skywalker in the title and hearing Palpatine's laugh because nobody expected that. And that was a dope moment. But then we got what we got. And it's like, did it really make sense? I honestly would have preferred her to be like Kenobi. If she would have been like Satine and Kenobi's secret love child, I would have loved that.
Yeah. Yeah, I with the Palpatine, I actually thought with Palpatine being the main villain of the sequels, it actually makes sense because it's he's the villain of the first trilogy, he's the villain of the second trilogy.
Yeah.
It would be very poetic in that way. But yeah, you just got to start with that in mind from the beginning and not just be like, oh, hey, Palpatine returned. Oh, what?
I know, yeah. Somehow Palpatine returned. They should have been sprinkling little hints of that in the first one, in the second one. That way it would have made sense. That would have been so sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if that's my, the choices they made weren't necessarily poor. It's just that they didn't, properly build them up.
Yep.
And reference it in the story. Even Luke, I would not have chosen to do with Luke what they did because, well, it's kind of a nuanced answer. So with Luke, if we would have been able to see that character development like in multiple movies over a strong course of time,
Yeah, yeah.
it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But just to like, we ended with him as the hero, and then when he comes back, he's just like a
Broken.
wimpy, broken
Yeah.
person. That was shocking. And the other thing, the motivation for being that way is pretty weak because like in the expanded universe, I don't know how much of that you've read or been through.
Little bit, little bit.
My older brother has all those books. We grew up like he bought them as they came out. You know, we read them all.
Nice.
In those books, he loses apprentices to the dark side like all the time. Like he loses people to the dark side. He's constantly getting like, but he never like the defining character trait about him is like, even in the darkest of times, he still, you know, remains the hero.
Yeah.
And works towards being better. So to me, it was like to just have one apprentice kind of go bad, and then you have one lapse of judgment, and like that's all it takes for you to just give up. You know, because even in the original trilogy, like how many times does he not give up on Vader? You know, he
Yeah.
constantly like keeps
Yeah.
believing. So just to be like, well, I had one person be bad, so I guess I will give up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on.
Yeah. So the sequels when Force Awakens came out, I liked that one, and I thought, okay, like everything was like, it's not what I would have done, but I'll go with it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Not what I would have done, but I thought Force Awakens was like a pretty strong start, and then it just kept like, okay, well, you clearly don't know what we're doing here, so
Yeah, and what kills me is like what George's sequel trilogy would have been that he kind of wrote and had planned out, but Disney didn't take it, where supposedly Episode 7 would have been Darth Maul and Darth Talon up against Luke, which would have been amazing. 'Cause
that
I'm
would
a
have been
huge-
cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge Darth Maul fan, so like when I heard that, that just makes me spite the sequels even more. Because like, what if they would have took George's scripts and ran with it? But no, they wanted to do their own thing.
Yeah. Well, even you know, they put all that stuff in with like the Knights of Ren.
And
And
nothing with those dudes.
yeah, and I was so how I would have fixed it, like if I used everything from Disney's that I could use, the only thing I really would have changed would be that Luke actually had a Jedi Order
Yeah,
established, whether it, you know, maybe it's low numbers, but it's at least established. And then I would have it basically you could have still had Rey, you know, she could have still been an orphan from a random desert planet that Luke finds. Like, you could have still done all that. She could have still been a Palpatine. Like, but then it would have been like, I would have made it Luke's Jedi versus Kylo Ren's Knights of Ren, and they're both going after Rey.
that'd be sick.
You know, that would have made that, just like that one change, I think would have fixed a lot of it.
Oh yeah, no, of course, yeah, of course it would have.
And it would have been super sweet, like seeing some sweet lightsaber fights, and, you know, even having Kylo Ren like be Han Solo's son and all that stuff. Like, they could have done all that. They just could have. If Luke was basically the problem.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing I miss, lightsaber fights. So like with the Ahsoka show, we're gonna get so many lightsaber battles. I cannot wait for all that action.
Yeah, it looks so good. And Rosario Dawson looks great as, like, she really, I feel like she acts it well. She's picking up the mannerisms and stuff really well. Like,
Yeah, when she first came out in that Mando episode, I was so worried and nervous because like I love Ashley as Ahsoka, but I love Rosario from all the work she's done with all the movies she's been in. She was in Daredevil, Punisher, The Defenders, all those Marvel shows on Netflix. So she's a great actress, but then we get that Ahsoka episode, and I'm so glad it was in the beginning, in the first 10 seconds. We got her right away. She looked great. She sounded great. I was like, okay, I like her as Ahsoka, and she's been fine since then.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, and then I think Theory talked about this, about the crossing her arms photo, and everyone got mad
Oh my,
about that.
yeah, that's Snips. That's what she does all the time.
Yeah, like the moment I saw it, I was like, oh, it looks just like what she does. Like,
Yeah, it
oh,
feels like Ahsoka.
yeah, yeah, it's really cool. Well,
Yeah.
what else you got on your radar for Star Wars? Is there any? What do you got? I saw you did a toy run or at a couple of like an antique mall or something.
Yeah, so it's this antique mall by me, and it's almost like a flea market. People could rent like booths there, and they just leave stuff in there, and they could load up new stuff in there whenever they want. So it's a lot of random stuff in there. So there is a ton of like vintage like Kenner Star Wars in there. I found a display case, and there was a lot. I didn't buy any because I'm going to a toy show this weekend, but next time I go there, I might grab like 4 or 5 because some of them were like $10, $12, $15, and like they were in good condition. So that place is cool. But the only other thing like on my radar, Star Wars wise, like shows and stuff, the Acolyte show. The Acolyte show, despite the showrunner running her mouth and saying the dumb things that she says, and the actors and actresses saying whatever they're saying, that's controversial. But I was at London Celebration and we saw the trailer for Acolyte, and that trailer for Acolyte had me just as hyped as the trailer for Ahsoka that we got at Celebration.
Nice.
It looked really, really good. It felt Star Wars, and there's a couple scenes in there with a lot of lightsabers. So it even though the lady is saying like stuff about George and this and the prequels and that, I still think this show might be a banger.
Yeah, I am. That was all a super weird thing with Acolyte, with like what the showrunners were saying and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with, I don't think that everyone who gets into Star Wars needs to have been a fan forever necessarily. But I do think they just have to be good storytellers, and they have to show that they're willing to like properly work on the show. Or whatever story they're a part of. And so I got nervous I've been nervous when I hear any of the actors and the showrunner and stuff talk, but then I'm like, the things that I hear about it though, I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. So then I'm like just conflicted about, how to feel about it.
And there, I mean, it's probably not going to be in there, but there were rumors that Darth Plagueis might be in it too.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
That would be super sweet. But from the trailer that we got, it looked really good.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, that helps me be a little more excited, which, as we've been talking about, it's been hard to be excited about some of this stuff,
Oh, I know. So at that celebration, we saw a lot. So we saw Acolyte, which looked great. We saw the Skeleton Crew trailer too. It looks cool. It looks fun, but it's not like I'm excited for it. Like I heard it just got pushed back to next year, and I could care less. It's not like I was looking forward to it or anything like that. It'll probably be a fun watch. We also saw the Bad Batch season 3 trailer, and it looks dark and gloomy. It looks very dark and gloomy. Like people are gonna die. So that looked good. We saw Andor season 2 trailer as well, and I'm not an Andor fan, but like this looked good. It looked a lot more fast paced, gritty. It looked like it'll keep me awake, because this first season, I took the best naps of my life ever after watching some of the episodes, because they just put me to sleep.
Yeah.
But season 2 trailer that we got, it looks promising, so I'll give it a chance. But if the first 2 or 3 don't hit, oh, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to hear, because like some of it, so like Marvel's got Echo coming out or whatever.
Oh my God.
And I just like don't, like I'm like not even going to watch it. Like I just don't care at all.
I'm not that I'm going to watch it, because supposedly Daredevil and Kingpin are in it. Since they're dropping, I think it's 5 or 6 episodes, they're dropping it all at once. I might just scrub through the timeline till I see Kingpin or Matt Murdock and just watch that, because I do not care about her at all. I just want to see my boy Vincent D'Onofrio and my guy Charlie Cox, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of like, in my head, I was like, well, I'll just wait to see what, like, Josh Denner says about it. And then if
He's
he
not
likes
watching it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. He's not going to watch it. So I'm like,
Yep.
so who's going to watch it that's going to be like, yeah, it's okay. And then I can go watch it.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
know. I know. Oh man, that's
Yeah.
rough. At least they know that nobody wants it. They're dropping it all at once, so after that weekend, we'll forget about it and complain about the next thing. Because if
Hmm.
that was week to week, man, that would be a 6 week of torture.
Yeah. Well, and then just, a lot of stuff with Disney right now, like they've had loss after loss and they got
Yeah,
to change
man,
something.
a lot.
Yeah. It's pretty, I'm not up on all the numbers and everything, but I think the last, 8 or 9 movies have all pretty much flopped and
Yeah, I
yeah.
think between all 8 or 9 of those movies, they've lost almost $1 billion, which
Mhm.
that's insane. And like Indiana Jones was like a huge flop, which is
Which
crazy.
actually kind of surprised me. So me and my wife went and saw that, and
Uh-huh.
I actually liked it. Like I thought it was pretty good. The only thing I thought at the end was like, did you see it? Did you see the movie?
No, I didn't see it. I wanted to. I was just so lazy to go, and then it stopped. So you could say the end. I don't care.
Well, I can say it without giving it away. It basically like the movie just stops. So like instead of ending, it just kind of stops. So like they do the whole climax of the movie, everything happens, and then
Yeah.
generally what happens after that is like you have a few scenes that wrap things up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and so I was expecting like you know anywhere from 5 to 8 scenes of like. You find out what happened to the Dial of Destiny. You find out what happened to Indy and what, like you just, all the things that wrap it up.
Yeah.
And it basically like they have the climax and then there's like one scene and then it's over.
Wow.
Like it just stops. And I was like, wait, so what happened? So like obviously the whole movie's about like the Dial of Destiny
Yeah.
and finding it. And so I was like, wait, so where did that go? And who's got this? And what about that character?
Yeah.
And like, there's a part in the beginning where like the main villain of the movie seems to die, but then like he's back the rest of the movie. And
Yeah.
so but they never like explain that and they never wrap it
What?
up at, like it's just kind of weird. It's like there's a couple things like that where I was just like, so what about this and that? But ultimately like it still was like a decent popcorn flick. Like it wasn't like,
Yeah.
you know, I could give it a solid like 6 out of 10, you know.
True. I'll check it out whenever they throw it on Disney Plus. But so one question I have for you with the whole movie stuff, like, so we haven't had a Star Wars movie since 2019, and I freaking miss it because that 5 year run, every Christmas I would go with my family, we would all go see it. It was like a tradition, right? So I missed that.
Yeah.
But like, so with these 3 movies before the writers and actors strike, it was supposed to be we were going to get 2 movies in 2026 and one in 2027, which to me scared me because it would have been 3 movies in an 18-month period, which is wild. Now I'm sure it's going to spread out because of these delays, but say if it doesn't, what do you think about that? 2 movies in 2026 and one in 2027, starting off with the Rey movie to bring Star Wars back to the movies.
Yeah. Well, first I think the Rey movie, I don't know if that's the best idea for them to start with, but at the same
Yep.
time, that's, who else are they going to start with?
Yeah.
It's like they kind of pigeonhole themselves with that's like their kind of character to market to kids kind of a thing. I'd point to Marvel. Like Marvel quality really started to dip when they started putting out so many movies,
Yeah.
and projects. And like in the last how many years they put out, 2 or 3, 4 movies a year plus Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
And obviously the quality has dipped. So I
Yep.
said to my buddy the other day, I have a couple of my buddies, we have a stream that every like Wednesday we text, and that's our like, the new show came out. But we basically were like, I think I would rather go back to like, Marvel was like 2 a year. It was like you got one
Yeah.
in the spring, one in the fall. And that was when everything was really like they were doing
Peak.
really
Yeah.
good movies. And I think I wouldn't do any more than that. And I'm nervous about they've already been on kind of a losing streak, and then
Yeah.
they're going to have this whole writer strike situation and actors strike, which, who knows when that's going to get resolved.
Exactly.
And then they're going to try to come in and like just bang out 3 movies, and like
Yeah,
it just seems interesting.
It scares me. And then it's kind of like, okay, are they doing that on purpose, having 2 in 1 year? Because say if the Rey movie's first and it bombs, the Dave Filoni movie should not bomb at all. Like, is that kind of like the safety net? Like, okay, Rey movie wasn't that good, but we have Dave's movie coming. You guys are gonna love this. Like, are they doing it because of that's what it makes me feel like they're just doing it because they know we're gonna love Dave's movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, and especially if Ahsoka's good,
Yeah, it's gonna connect to it. It should.
Yeah. The thing that actually also scares me about the whole movie thing is, and that's why I'm a little less nervous with Marvel, because Marvel's at least been consistently putting out movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Part of what I'm nervous about with Kathleen Kennedy is that she hasn't put out a movie in so long, and she's starting to get pressure from the company you must put out a movie. And so then it's like,
it's forced.
I don't want you to just force a movie out. Like, I'd rather wait 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, if I have to pick, I'd rather wait. But I feel like she's just going to, we're just going to put out a movie and hope it's good. And I don't know. Even with Dave's movie, it's like, how many shortcuts is he going to have to make just because they're trying to push it out so that they have one?
Yeah.
No,
exactly. So, like, I'm excited for Star Wars to come back to the movies, but I'm terrified at the same time. Because, like, now with the strikes and stuff, for sure it's going to be rushed. Like, even without the strikes and stuff, I'm like, I still felt like it'd be kind of rushed to cram that many that soon. And the crazy thing is, literally months before this was even kind of like announced, she was saying how, I want to do it, make it like an experience and do 1 movie every 3 years, like James Bond movies. And then all of a sudden it's 1 movie every 6 months instead of 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what?
And that James Bond comment was so weird anyway. Like,
you mean like how George did it? Like, that's how George did it every 3 years.
Yep. Well, and again, it goes back to, and, a lot of people pick on the prequels too, and there's definitely things to pick on. Like, I know that I love them more because of the nostalgia, of growing up with them and everything. But again, like, George Lucas had a singular vision of, like, this is the story. And if he would have done 7, 8, 9, that singular vision would have continued.
Oh, yeah.
And she just doesn't have any sort of, I don't even know if she has a vision for it, let alone this is, again, it's like they should have used what George gave them. And even if they didn't use all of it, they should have at least used it as a guide.
Outline, yeah, man.
Yeah. And then, stuck with where he wanted. What I originally thought when Disney purchased Star Wars was that, because the prequel movies, while they gave a really cohesive story, like, there's definitely things about them that are, like, not so great. Like, Hayden's acting in episode 2 is not the greatest. Like, Jar Jar isn't the best. I understand all the things that people pick on. So my thought was like, man, if you could take Disney's, like, money essentially and pair it with George's vision, that would have that's what I was hoping it was going to be, and it just isn't that.
Yeah, it should have been a home run, man. But even what they've done with it, like at Galaxy's Edge, because I'm right by Orlando, so I have an annual pass. I go, but like Galaxy's Edge could have been so much more, but it's stuck with just kind of like the sequels, and then their Star Cruiser Hotel, which is a ridiculous price, right? It's like $5,000, whatever. I would have figured it out and paid for it if it would have felt like OG or a prequel trilogy. But the whole ship is in between episode 8 and 9, the 2 worst movies to most people in the franchise. You make this experience based on that, and you can see it. They shut it down because no one's going to it.
Yeah. Well, and the price was insane.
No, it was insane. But if I would have felt like I was in Camino or the Jedi Temple or doing crazy stuff, I would have saved for a couple years and went just to feel like that. But it's not that feeling.
Yeah. Well, and it's a tough position for them too, because it's like they put the movies out, they put all the money into it, and so it's like, I understand why it's hard to market, like, from a marketing perspective, abandon that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but it like they should have pivoted differently. Like I don't even know what the answer is, but like it's just
They could
I
have
don't
made
know.
it like a Mandoverse ship and just pivot to that. That's their stuff. Like that would have been way cooler if you would have felt like all Mandalorian stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and again, comparing to Marvel, they're the easiest direct comparison.
Yeah.
They when they originally, I don't think they've been doing this with some of their latest stuff, but in the Infinity Saga movies, we got to know these certain group of characters, and then when they started introducing the new characters, it was as a support character to the ones we already loved.
Yeah.
And then they let that happen for long enough that like we eventually liked the support characters enough to let them have their own thing. With the sequels, it was like we're gonna make it about Rey, and the main characters that we love are
The support characters.
support characters.
Yeah, bro. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, and what they should have done is the sequel movies are all about Han, Luke, Leia. And then you bring in Rey, you bring in Finn, you bring in Poe, and then you can have another trilogy that's now them.
That
You know what
would
I
have
mean?
been beautiful. And now that you mentioned Han, Luke, and Leia, that's another thing that irks my soul about the sequels is we did not get a scene with Luke, Han, and Leia and Chewie in the cockpit of the Falcon flying somewhere.
Or together at all.
Or together at all. Like, how... like, rest in peace to Carrie Fisher, so I'm sure that didn't help. But, like, that should have been the opening for The Last Jedi. Like, get the band back together again.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can understand in the first one, like how maybe, if they're all in different parts of the galaxy, they got them together. But definitely by the second one, I was expecting them to be like together, Even Luke and Leia, like in Last Jedi, it's like they couldn't, that was it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they just made like Han Solo's just kind of a deadbeat nobody.
Beat that, yeah.
And it's like, we already had this character development. He started as that.
Yeah.
And then he became a general and a hero. And it's like, yeah, maybe he maybe struggled with that and he had some low points, but like we already had the character development happen.
Yeah. Exactly, man.
Yeah. Super wild.
Yep.
Well, hey man, it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, man, you too.
Yeah, we should definitely do this again. And I think we're pushing an hour here. So anything you want to say? Where can we find you? Where you at? Socials, all that kind of stuff.
So on YouTube, Star Wars Sith. So I think if you search it, easiest way is at Star Wars Sith 66. And then same thing on Instagram, Star Wars Sith. So usually drop videos daily, Monday through Friday. I have a live show Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern. And then every Friday I drop a new episode of my podcast, Sith Talk.
Nice. Yeah, you're putting out content. You're cranking stuff out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, this has been great. And for everyone watching, thanks for watching. Make sure to go over to his stuff and like and subscribe to everything. Like and subscribe here too. And we'll see you next time on Writing Quest.